So, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to OpenGov Unplugged. This is the beginning series of ours, rolling out with Damien Wong, the Vice President for Tricentis for Asia Pacific. And I had the privilege of actually going through a number of questions with him. But welcome to the show, Damien, and please
Thank
tell
you,
me
Mohit.
a little bit about yourself.
Well, thrilled to be here today with you, Mohit. Just for those who may not be familiar with Tricentis, Tricentis is a global leading provider of quality engineering software, which in summary means that we provide an integrated AI-augmented platform designed to help enterprises drive software quality at the speed of innovation. And
Hmm.
then the role I play in Tricentis is that I'm the Senior Vice President and Managing Director for the Asia Pacific region, based out of Singapore.
Good to know. And again, once again, welcome to the show. So, Damien, there's so much noise around the AI, Gen AI space, right? You got
Yep.
tools coming out of the woodwork, helping people code faster. The question comes down to is accuracy,
Hmm.
because you can code stuff and put it out there. The element of surprise comes in when that code has ramifications across the entire network. It doesn't work the way it should. So let me ask you, what does intelligent automation mean for modern enterprise? And how is Tricentis redefining its role in accelerating digital transformation across APAC? Share some success stories, can you? From a Tricentis
Absolutely.
solution. Yeah.
And you've raised some very salient points, right? Everyone's talking about AI, everyone's talking about, tools that are AI driven, how AI can help organizations. There's been a lot of talk around how AI driven coding has really come to the forefront and accelerated the pace at which software is being developed and,
Mm.
and deployed, right? Which brings us to this whole question around intelligent automation from the quality standpoint, right? Because all this code that's being generated, and if you look at some of the statistics that are being shared, right? Everyone agrees that a huge amount of the code is machine generated, and machine generated code has also been statistically proven to be buggy for the most part, right? So
Mm.
there is a concern about how all this code is being generated and how a lot of it is actually buggy. So then, organizations that are using this way of accelerating software innovation need to then ensure that whatever is being rolled out does not then come and bite them eventually, because the quality expectations are not met, and their users, their customers, right,
Mm.
their stakeholders are in turn then impacted negatively, right? This is where we have this whole I guess confluence of events.
Mm.
The fact that Gen AI is driving the accelerated rollout or development of code, that code that is in one system invariably has impacts on other systems across business processes. And therefore, it makes it more important not to just test in isolation, but then to test within a business process from an end-to-end standpoint, right? And I think this is where Tricentis has come to play a big role in addressing that, because we come from the perspective of a much more holistic quality engineering perspective, right? We don't
Mm.
just test a piece of code, we test it in the context of a business process or business model, and we use AI to ensure that we're able to address some of the challenges that
Mm.
traditional technologies and approaches fundamentally are not able to meet in terms of what enterprises are expecting. Yeah, so this is really the thing that we do. We help organizations in today's environment bridge the gap between speed to innovation and the need for quality, right? So you don't have to compromise speed for quality. We believe that with the right technology, and Tricentis obviously believes we have the right technology, organizations are able to have speed and quality.
No, perfect. I agree with you. And that actually alludes to the word ROI, right?
Mhm.
Because you emphasize on the testing, making sure it's high impact. Hence, what you're alluding to is that's how you get the best ROI. So,
Mhm.
so the question comes down to is from an AI across software development life cycle. So how is Tricentis leveraging AI? Because everybody wants to know,
Mhm.
do you have AI embedded into your platform? Okay. And how does that help test the best practices?
Yeah, well, that's
And
an interesting question because I think every single company in the world today claims to have AI embedded in their technology stack or technology portfolio. Because if they
correct.
don't, then I mean, there's this question of whether you're relevant to the wider industry and
Mm,
marketplace. The other thing is ROI, right? Our traditional definition of ROI is return on investment, and that still holds, right? But I think people are now looking at ROI also as the rate of innovations
correct.
that organizations are able to drive, right, with the help of AI. So I think we have been looking at how the market has been embracing AI and adopting it. So I think this is where if we talk about AI impacting software development, AI is definitely impacting software testing, software quality, because with AI, you now have this ability to augment what humans can do, right? Because it's impossible to test everything, right? You don't have enough hours in the day, you don't have enough resources. You need to know, well, what's changed, what do you need to test? And that's one of the reasons why we have this integrated suite that allows you to do that. So we have a quality intelligence platform that's powered by an acquisition we did previously of a company called Sea Lights. And
Mm,
Sea Lights does that, right? It uses AI to identify what code has changed. You
mm,
don't have to tell me. I can detect it using AI. I can then also detect what tests have been run on these code changes, if at all, right?
mm.
And if there aren't any tests that have been run, then this will ensure that you know it, right? And also, right, this ties in nicely to some of the agentic test automation capabilities we have, because if we find that code has been changed, there are no existing test assets that have been developed to address it, then this is where you could use the help of agents to develop some of the tests to automate what's needed.
No, what's interesting, and you're absolutely right, is you need something that can look at what's coming new into the environment, right?
Mhm.
Has it really been tested? Because people have the habit of coding stuff and deploying it, and they are scared also to get caught out.
Of
So a
course.
coder has to protect his or her job, which is respectful. So the other role of I call it IA, internal affairs. You
Yes.
need the
I like
AI
it.
to be the internal affairs to
Yes.
go through your system and say, hey, it was changed over there. That's
Yes.
the impact and the ramifications it's going to have over there.
Yeah.
So if you look at all those parameters, you are safe in the environment. So you need a police at the end of the day to
Yeah.
ensure, okay, then
Yeah.
that's how I'm visualizing the entire thing that you were describing. Let me build on that then, Damien.
Yeah.
So what strategies should organizations adopt to mitigate these risks while scaling innovation, especially in legacy environments, right, where automation must modernize without disrupting operations? And we're seeing a lot of that. We do
Yeah.
have legacy.
Well, you're 100% right, right? I mean, most organizations are not greenfield, right? They have existing technology, existing operations, existing
Mm.
businesses. So it's almost like building a plane as it flies, right? That's the kind of the
Okay, in
imagery.
the parts.
Yeah, yeah, you're renovating it, you're
Yeah.
upgrading it, but you have to keep the plane flying, right?
Mm.
And that's where I think organizations are often in a position where they believe they need to make a choice, right? Between speed or quality, which
Mm.
in my opinion is fallacious. I mean, the quality transformation report also talks about how nearly half of Singaporean organizations actually admit to regularly shipping out code changes without testing them.
Yeah.
Right, and can you imagine this, right? If you're shipping out code, you're not testing it, the kind of risks that organizations face are tremendous, right? And the reasons why they do this is because they have prioritized speed over quality, right? And they think that they need to make a choice.
Yeah.
That if they choose quality, sometimes that means that they will forfeit or forego speed, and that's going to impact their um, competitiveness, right? And I think this stems from the fact that many of them come from a legacy environment where they're still looking at manual testing approaches. They're using some legacy test automation software, and some of the legacy test automation platforms tend to be very difficult to maintain, right?
Mm.
Because the technology stacks that we work with today have evolved, Mohit.
Damien, So as a VP and MD for Tricentis, it's interesting. Your job is two things: grow the business.
Mhm.
But while you're growing the business, what you're actually doing is you're educating the market.
Yes.
You're informing them of a technology, like you said, first to market that can help you understand your environment, understand where the changes are taking place, and be mindful. I use the word, okay, internal affairs. You don't like the word. I can respect that because the reason I use that is in a good way. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we're not trying to find anything bad. They're not looking
Yes.
for the bad. What they're looking for is change. Yes, there's a bad connotation over there, but over here in the
Mhm.
business environment, if you can see layers and layers of visibility, okay, you can keep your environment safe. So I come from a safety background. That's what I'm thinking of. But
Yes.
as you grow the business, what are your plans? You have to grow, but you got to keep people informed, as a business, enterprise, government, the whole nine yards informed. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? I think that's a multi-million dollar question, right? And how do you grow the business?
Mm,
Everybody thinks about that. I mean, from the Tricentis perspective, I think first and foremost, um, action speaks louder than words. We're committed to the Asia Pacific region without a doubt, right? Across APAC, we have entities not only in Singapore but in Australia, in India, in Korea, in Japan, the Philippines. We are committed to supporting our customers and partners across the region with our growing presence and footprint wherever we feel that we can make the most impact. So I think that is has always been the case, right? I've been here 3.5 years, almost 4 years now, right? And the growth that we have seen during this period demonstrates, how committed we are to the region. The other aspect of it is that we believe we cannot do this alone, right? Because um, no person is an island, right? And it takes a team to ensure success, right? So one of the key focus areas for us is really building a strong partner ecosystem. We ensure that we recruit and enable the right partners
mm.
that our customers rely on and want to work with to build those capabilities. And when we say capabilities, I've been brought up in a world where capability is not a technology, right? Technology is an enabler, but it's got to be a combination of people and process and
Mhm.
technology together that helps organizations develop and have those capabilities.
No, absolutely. And you're right. I like that story. It's the world is, I call it flat still.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter where you start. You can reach anywhere and your people and yeah, it's about people. We are in the people's business at the end of the day, right?
Oh yeah,
So
100%.
I agree. Upskilling your teams work, efficiently with AI. What role do you see governments and industry in collaboration in building an AI talent pipelines across APAC? And how do you address the common misconception, Damien, where
Yeah.
business leaders have about automation and
Yes.
enterprise testing, my friend?
Well, two questions I see in that, right? The first one around talent and how
Mm,
governments can play a part in that, right? In terms of that public-private collaboration and partnership. And the second one is around misconceptions, which,
mm,
to be honest, I've heard a number of them, and and I'd love to address that. But in terms of talent is always a super important topic, right? Because if you don't have the right talent it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. And then when we talk about AI specifically, right, this is a technology that's disruptive, but it's also one that has a potential to significantly, drive outsized returns if organizations are able to harness it. I'll use the analogy of maybe autonomous vehicles, right?
mm,
If you look at how AI has helped with this whole building of capabilities, think of how autonomous vehicles today can help organizations, sorry, people, right? With getting to destinations fast. But having an autonomous vehicle does not mean that you are actually going to outsource the decision of where to go to the vehicle, right? The vehicle is still ultimately a vehicle. It's an
mm.
intelligent vehicle that can, help you get to where you want to, maybe in an efficient way, right? In a way that perhaps ties into what your preferences are. But you still need to know where you want to go. You still need to know what the constraints are around the journey so that, you are going to get there in a timely way, safely, and still be achieving all your desired objectives. So people still need to understand, right? That just because a technology is intelligent doesn't mean that it is going to be able to do every single thing
Correct.
that you would like it to do, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a quick case of like, can it do it? Yes, potentially, but would you do it? Would you put a general purpose motor that powers your lawnmower into a Formula One racing car and try to compete in a Formula One race? It's probably not a good idea. Will the car move? Potentially it might, right?
Mm.
But at what speed? And those are some of the things which leads on to that misconceptions that I think you were alluding to as well, right? What are some of the misconceptions people have around AI, right? The other misconception they often have is some of the business leaders I've spoken to still live in a world where they think that testing is a one and done thing. Oh, it's a project. I've done the project, and during the project, we had a testing phase. And once we've tested, you mean we have to test this
Again.
again, in future?
Mhm.
And we are like, well, your software changes constantly because your business changes constantly, right?
Mhm.
The market forces, your regulators, policies, laws, etc. All these things actually drive change
Yeah.
for the organization, right, Mohit? And you and I live in that world where, change is actually accelerating. And because we are all technology companies, the software that powers our businesses change all the time.
Mm.
So there's no longer a situation where I can say, I've tested it and I can forget about it and I don't have to. It's like saying, look, I've checked the road at midnight and I look left and look right and there are no cars there, so it's safe to cross. So I don't have to check left and right again whenever I want to cross the road. There's going to be a recipe for disaster.
It makes complete sense because you know what you're alluding to is if we go for a health checkup,
Yeah.
okay, that's what it is. You go for a health checkup once, how often do you want to do it? Now, can you imagine if you were getting that done consistently without you having to stop anything?
Mhm.
But you have to keep going to the doctor and it says, hey, everything is fine, 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 fine. And the anomaly, that's the only time you go. You're right. People go for once a year and then say, okay, 5 years is done now. It doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. We need in all the technology around the IoT devices for the human body,
The
right? It's saying continuous monitoring of your health.
100%. I love that analogy because that is exactly right, right? Because we all live such fast-paced lives. You never know
Correct.
what's happening to our bodily systems and so on.
No, so thank you for that. I do have one last question because you hit on the autonomous testing and the autonomous, and I agree with you. I am a, like you know, I'm a very strong believer if you have visibility at all times, you just have to prioritize what you want visibility on because not everything can be visible 100% of the time. It becomes inexpensive.
Of
What's
course.
your advice? Because there are leaders out there, Damien,
Yeah.
who unfortunately are either mystified or their team hasn't shared enough with them. What's your, single piece or two piece of advice for them to say autonomous testing is the most crucial thing for a business?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my line. What's your line?
Well, I'll say that first off, the question is AI a buzzword, passing fad, or is it here to stay? I think that might be one of the fundamental questions that we have to ask ourselves. I personally believe that AI is here to stay. And in fact, we're only perhaps scratching the surface
Mhm.
on how it's going to impact the way that we live and work and play, right?
Right.
It's akin to the disruptive nature of the internet when it first landed into our lives, right? Many people perhaps underestimated the impacts. My advice to these organizations is not to shut yourselves away from it, but to educate yourselves, embrace it, right? But obviously, we're not saying be reckless.
Mm.
Do the right things, do know where the industry is heading, what the industry is doing to address some of these things. For example, at Tricentis, right, we have taken steps to ensure that we adhere to responsible AI principles across the board.
Mm.
So organizations working with us know that we are taking great pains to address all these concerns and risks, right, when they are working with us. Simple thing like large language models, right? If you are more comfortable with your own language model, bring your own language
Mm.
model. We have MCP support, right? So we're not saying that you have to, be able to leverage public LLMs, use your own. We're happy to work with that because we support the standards that allow you to utilize this, right? And ultimately, that's the thing that we're here, right? We're at the forefront. We're recognized as a global leader in this AI-powered quality engineering space, right? And organizations that want to jump onto the bandwagon, right? I think might be in a good place to have a chat with us, right? Just to get themselves better acquainted. If they're not already working with us, get in with us with a conversation. Just try to understand exactly what we're doing to help organizations be successful as they go down this journey.
I'm with you. Hey, Damien, thank you for being on OpenGov Unplugged. I think it's been an awesome conversation having you here once again. And wish you, Tricentis, the very best on your journey. Good luck at the end of the year. It's coming around very soon. I think big days in front of everybody. But I agree with you. There's a lot, and people should not be apprehensive. They should ask. This is the time to be asking questions.
Well, thank you, Mohit. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show. And yeah, well, looking forward to continuing the conversations with anyone who's keen to do so. Thank you.
Good stuff.